It's been 9 months since India launched what was described as the world's biggest vaccination drive. And the moment is almost here when we complete 1 billion or 100 crore vaccine doses. Now, the government has planned festivities to mark this great achievement. Now, the total vaccine doses administered, now a massive number. And as you can see, that live counter that we just showed you, just over 9,20,000 odd vaccine doses until we reach that 1 billion mark. But only one other country has administered over 1 billion vaccine doses, and that is China, which crossed 1 billion doses in June. It's also the only other country to have a population of more than 1 billion. Now, the government has also planned to make announcements over loudspeakers on trains, planes, ships. Villages that have completed 100% vaccination should also put up posters and banners to advertise this fact. However, and here's the downside, only an estimated 21% of the country's 1.4 billion people have received both their shots. By contrast, with the country's busiest festive season, an estimated 51% have been given just one dose so far, which gives an estimated 30 to 50% protection against the virus. So there is vaccine hesitancy or vaccine complacency that needs now to be sorted out. Take a look at this visual that we're now showing you. This effectively tells you what India has achieved. And what we're talking about really is how many doses India has administered. Now, this would be equivalent to 18 Canadas, 5 Russias, 10 United Kingdoms, 11 Frances and 8 Germanys. Now, of course, the caveat being all of these countries have a minuscule population compared to India, but this in no way takes away from the magnitude of India's achievement. 1 billion, that number is really something to celebrate. But as we said, there are questions that still need to be asked and answered. So what really are the challenges ahead? Let's have that graphic up on our screens as well. Now, at the current rate that India is vaccinating at, 30% of the population is going to be fully vaccinated by the end of the year. Remember, the target was 60% of the adult population. Now, over 70% of the adult population is partially vaccinated, and this really is the crux of the problem. 51% of the total population and 70% of the adult population has taken one dose. However, one dose is only between 30 and 50% effective as protection against the coronavirus, and it's only 21% of the total population that has been fully vaccinated. So in terms of full vaccination, we still have a long way to go. Meher Pandey joining us at this point with all the latest on this big story. Meher, give us a sense of what's been planned for that big moment. Lots of celebrations. We love a spectacle. What's in store?
Yes, Ankita, there is a lot in store today. As soon as we hit the 15 lakh mark today, that's when we will complete 1 billion doses overall. And right now, if we have the counter on screen, we are about to hit 9 lakh doses. So just a short while to go until the milestone of 100 crore overall in 9 months will be completed. The health minister has said that he'll launch a song and a music video to mark this moment. This will happen at Red Fort today at 12:30 p.m. The Prime Minister is also expected to be at the central government hospital today to mark the countdown. All BJP states, in particular, poll-bound states, will be celebrating this mark, and BJP will lead that. Since this is a massive achievement for the government. But as you said, that is a massive caveat as well, because only 1 out of 5 people in the country are fully vaccinated. 4 out of 5 are either partially or not vaccinated at all. The gap between partially and fully vaccinated is one of the largest in the world in India. So The government does have its work cut out for it as we go forward. They are going to celebrate today very well. As we said, we do like a spectacle, but There is a lot to do going forward. This may not be vaccine hesitancy yet. The last mile, the last group of people who are in remote areas, difficult to reach, that is the people who are left now. So this will require a significant investment by the government. So it's not just the fact that it's hesitancy, it's also that there are other challenges that
right. All right.
leave a certain group out.
Okay, Meher. Thanks very much indeed for joining us with all of those details. Let's take some of those points that you've raised straight across to our panelists joining us this morning. Dr. Subhash Salunke, member of the National Task Force on COVID, Senior Advisor, Public Health Foundation of India, is with us this morning. Dr. Anant Mohan, Professor and Head, Pulmonary Medicine at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences, also with us. Dr. Shailesh Jain, ICMR scholar, and Dr. Shashank Joshi, member of the COVID-19 Task Force of the state of Maharashtra, is with us as well. Now, gentlemen, from a point when we were wondering whether India was going to have enough vaccine doses, when we were wondering about whether the pace of vaccinations could be ramped up or not, we have actually reached what is going to be a historic milestone, which is now just about 8,90,000 doses away, and we're keeping a close eye on that counter. Dr. Salunke, if I can begin with you, obviously there's no way we can take away from the huge achievement of this moment and the celebrations of it. Did you expect, to see this moment at this point? Would you have expected perhaps a higher number of second doses also being taken? Your thoughts as we approach this historic milestone.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ankita. And let me congratulate India, my own country, for really achieving this spectacular success. However, as has been already indicated, there are a lot of issues that we have to take into consideration. Number one, this achievement is primarily because of the contribution of the health system. Even though public health has been neglected by India in last 70 years, we have to consider that even though the public health systems are practically not present in the urban areas, still the health system, the administration have done a marvelous job. Number two, I consider this is a positive approach taken by our people. So the second credit, I would certainly like to give it to the contribution of population of India, people of India who have come forward, even though there was no proper and appropriate communication strategy developed in initial period to address the vaccine hesitancy. And third group whom I would like to give credit is the scientists and the vaccine manufacturing industry. They have come to a particular level that our expectations are met by them. So these are the three entities, that is the health system, the administration, the people themselves, and the pharmaceutical industry. I think celebration is a little premature. We have to appreciate, in your presentation, you have very clearly stated that only 21% or 22% people are getting 2 doses. We are heading for a serious situation unless we reach 60 to 65% of the people, total population with 2 doses. We shouldn't feel that we have achieved greatest success. Certainly, there is a real need for us to focus on the job rather than doing the celebrations. Yes, celebrations are needed, certainly needed. But at the same time, we have to keep in mind the challenges are very stiff-eyed, and we should have done it by August end. At least by December end, if we can achieve 2 doses, 60 to 65%. No, absolutely no room for complacency.
Absolutely no room for complacency.
August, October, November and December. In 3 months, 2 doses, 65% population of India. Then let us celebrate. Not now.
Well, October is almost over, Dr. Salunke. We effectively have 2 months and perhaps 10 odd days. So that's really not perhaps enough time to get to that target that India had set for itself. But Dr. Anant Mohan, if I can come to you, yes, point completely taken. We have to celebrate, but with a lot of caution. There are challenges ahead. Dr. Salunke is saying, we have to congratulate the people of India for coming forward and taking the vaccines as well. Now, over there, I'd like to sort of, stress on the fact that there also seems to be a great deal of what appeared to be vaccine hesitancy at the beginning has now become either vaccine complacency or, we could call it vaccine dropouts. Yes, they've gone, they've taken the first vaccine, also at a time when COVID cases were rising. India saw close to 4.5 lakh deaths. There was this fear about COVID-19, but that fear seems to have waned right now with cases having gone down. But the fear of another wave still remains. So how do we then get all the people who have missed their second dose into vaccine centers? Is that going to be the big challenge going ahead?
Well, yes, after having kind of congratulated the entire nation on achieving this target, yes, the challenges remain, as already has been mentioned. And the specific question which you are asking is that how to get the people into the fold. Fortunately, there have been people coming. But again, the problem comes that suppose there is still a little bit of vaccine hesitancy, especially in the people, who may not be very well aware about the disease or the nature of disease or the problems it may face. Hence, to my mind, I feel a sustained public education campaign is also required, continuous public education campaign to tell them what are the benefits of the vaccine, what are the harms of not taking a vaccine. Who are the people who all should take the vaccine, and maybe if there is a small segment who should be not taking the vaccine immediately. But as you know, there is hardly any condition where vaccine is contraindicated. There is hardly any such condition. I feel a good public education campaign sustained campaign should be there in place all the time. Complacency is likely to set in because the number of cases have gone down. People have started going out. As you can see, festival season is coming. In the next 2 months, there are likely to be a lot of social occasions. We have to be pretty careful about it. At the same time, we have to ensure that the momentum of the vaccination also doesn't fade away. In fact, if possible, we enhance it further. Like already has been said, the challenge is still huge. Only 22% fully vaccinated. In terms of absolute numbers, it is a good number, no doubt about it. But as far as percentages go, it is still pretty small. So we need to work on both these fronts and get the people back into our fold. In fact, many times we have seen in our clinics, many patients, when we ask them randomly, they have not got vaccinated and we ask them why, and they are a little skeptical. So these kind of fears need to be dispelled with maybe by a continued education campaign.
So vaccine skepticism does exist, and I suppose the fact that overall COVID cases have come down drastically in a way has also boosted that kind of vaccine complacency that we're seeing right now. Dr. Shailesh Jain, apart from the fact that we have a significant percentage of the population not being fully vaccinated, we've also seen research that talks about how booster shots are required because vaccine efficacy does wane over time. But is India even at a stage where it can be thinking about possible booster shots, or is the entire focus going to be on getting at least 60% of the adult population vaccinated?
Ankita, as you have asked, we should have to think for the booster dose because the vaccine which we are giving as of now, it is very much effective against the Delta variant of the COVID virus. We does not know what is lying in the future. If the virus mutates and this vaccine is not effective against the future virus, we definitely have to think for the booster doses. First thing. Second thing, if we take the present scenario, the same virus comes again after 2 or 3 months. In that case also, the person who is senior citizen, immunocompromised, who is taking chemotherapy, who is undergone the bypass surgery, or the frontline warriors like healthcare workers, they should definitely go for the booster doses because we have already seen there are 2 types of immunity for the COVID virus. First is T cell and beta cell. T cell immunity comes from the antibody level only that gains after the 6 to 7 months of the vaccination or after the 6 to 7 months of the infection of the COVID in second wave. We have already seen survey done in Gangaram Hospital in Delhi that vaccine production of the antibodies wanes after 5 to 6 months. So definitely we should go for the booster doses in the immunosusceptible population.
Dr. Shashank Joshi, give us a sense of, we've talked about this whole festival effect also. A lot of people now just focused on other things. They're in celebration mode and they can because, we have a bit of a breather, but we perhaps saw a similar kind of complacency just before the second wave hit as well. Where do you think India is overall? I mean, for instance, in the United Kingdom, which has far higher vaccinations, full vaccinations than we do. We're now seeing once again an alarming rise in the number of cases.
Geeta ji, you are very right. We cannot afford complacency. And when festive seasons come up, and we saw Ganesh Festival, Onam, then Navratri, Dashera, now Diwali coming up, clearly there is a likelihood of breakdown of COVID protocols. And remember, the strongest vaccine against all variants is the mask. So it's an airborne droplet infection. So whatever happens, by the time the second dose gets administered, we still need to continue our masking protocols in place. Because remember, a good mask can still be intercepting the transmission. It is independent of any variant of concern or variant of interest. So I would recommend that for the next 6 months to next 1 year, we need to continue masking, absolutely mandatory. There has to be a zero tolerance for, breakdown of COVID appropriate behavior. That's number one. Number two, I think we should celebrate this movement, Ankita ji.
Yes.
Because single dose itself for such a large population is a huge boost. And remember, currently all the genomic studies in India are showing that we are only getting delta derivatives. Unless and until there is new variant of concern or new variant of interest, it is unlikely that there would be any potential third wave, at least for the next 3 months. These 3 months we should use as an opportunity to ensure that the second dose hesitancy is broken down and is completed. We need to ensure that our healthcare force and frontline force is given boosters, as well as our immunocompromised population and the elderly population. And I think we should celebrate it with caution, and we should stop this revenge shopping, revenge tourism, revenge celebrations. That is something which is human mind. You see, human mind is fed up now. After 20 months, people of India need to become resilient, and they need to rise to the occasion by behaving appropriately. I think celebrations can be still individual. They can still be at homes in a bio bubble. But I think, public celebrations need some caution and care.
Important words of caution, and indeed I think we've covered the whole gamut of reasons why we need to celebrate and reasons why we still need to be very, very careful. Dr. Salunke, Dr. Mohan, Dr. Jain, Dr. Joshi, thank you very much for being on Good Morning India. Well, R.S. Sharma, CEO of the National Health Authority, told NDTV that we are now doing close to 700 vaccinations per second. It will actually be a little difficult to know exactly who the 100th crore or 1 billionth beneficiary is. He also talked about how efficient the Cowin app has been.
From the time when you had initially started, you were always confident, you always kept telling us that we've handled UPI, so we can handle volume. There were initial doubts, there were glitches in the system also. What gave you the confidence that this app is going to handle not just 2.5 crores in a day, but 1 billion one day?
Thank you very much, Sanket, for having me on your channel. I think I must join everybody in this country to really celebrate this momentous occasion. I think this happens, once in a lifetime kind of opportunity for all of us who are into this area of technology and software. It's really, the credit must go to the vaccinators, to the doctors, to the nurses, to health workers who have really toiled day and night since last 9 months or so and have made this moment come true. So the real credit and sort of thanks must be given to those. Of course, I have been confident, and as you said, we were very clear that we have handled many things. Of course, you guys have always been doubting that competence, but then I don't blame you for that matter. Okay, it's a difficult job, and softwares are something which don't really sometimes work.
Yeah.
Despite the best architecture, despite best efforts, they do sometimes fail, and they do sometimes have glitches. Unfortunately, the story of glitches in the software, I must say again and repeat it, that except for a couple of days in the beginning when the Honorable Prime Minister launched it on 16th of January, since then, after a couple of days, there have been absolutely no glitches in the software. And actually one question was raised to me that, who will be the 100 croreth beneficiary? And I was telling that gentleman that, look, we are sort of doing 700 vaccinations per second. So actually, who will be that 100th croreth beneficiary will be a little difficult to find it out, because it will be a matter of not only milliseconds but also microseconds.
Well, India is not taking its eye off the ball, and it's issued fresh guidelines for international travellers entering the country. Travellers fully vaccinated and coming from a country with which India has reciprocal arrangements will be allowed to leave the airport and need not undergo home quarantine and testing from the 25th of October, according to these revised guidelines. However, and there is a caveat, they will have to provide a negative COVID-19 RT-PCR report. If partially or not vaccinated, then travellers need to undertake measures which include the submission of a sample for a COVID test at the point of arrival, home quarantine for 7 days, retest on the 8th day of arrival, and if negative, then further self-monitor their health for the next 7 days. Now, these latest guidelines supersede all other guidelines issued on the matter, is what the Union Health Ministry has said. Time for a very quick break. Coming up next, all the other news of the day. Fuel prices continue to rise for another day, and this time hitting a fresh all-time high. Fuel prices on fire yet again. The price of petrol and diesel in Delhi is currently at 106.54 per litre, up by another 35 paise and 95.27 paise per litre, respectively. In Mumbai, petrol prices currently at 112 rupees 44 paise a litre for petrol, and diesel at 103 rupees 26 paise. In Chennai, that's all right, let's go on to Kolkata first. Kolkata now sees petrol, Chennai at 103.61, diesel at just under 100 rupees. And in Kolkata, you'll pay 107 rupees 12 paise per litre of petrol and 98 rupees 38 paise for diesel. Once again, fuel prices at an all-time high. Prices have now gone up once again for the second straight day. Time for another quick break. Still ahead, the police in Kolkata claim a breakthrough in the murder of a senior corporate executive and his driver. We'll have details in a moment. There's been a breakthrough in the double murder case that has rocked Kolkata since Sunday. A 42-year-old woman arrested in the murder of a senior corporate executive, Shubir Chaki, and his driver, Robin Mondol, in Kolkata's upmarket Goriahat area. The woman was arrested after she confessed during interrogation to conspiracy in the crime. The hunt is still on for her son, who's missing. Meetu Haldar worked as a domestic help at the home of a teacher in Diamond Harbour. She'll be produced in court today. According to the Kolkata police, she and her older son contacted Chaki in response to an advertisement in the newspaper about the sale of his ancestral property at Goriahat in Kolkata. The two had come and visited the house some time ago as well. A 3-day film festival organised by neighbouring Bangladesh government in the capital of Tripura, Agartala, has been postponed, keeping in mind the tense situation on both sides of the border post after the communal clashes during Durga Puja. A clash had broken out on the 15th of October after a rumoured video of a Durga Puja where the deity was shown standing over Islam's holy book, the Quran, made rounds and allegedly irked the Muslim majority there. There were attacks and arson in several parts of Bangladesh in which 6 people from both sides died and others were injured. The festival has now been postponed because of this tense situation. So India now all set to complete 1 billion doses. That's 100 crore doses today, with the government planning festivities to mark what is indeed a massive achievement. As you can see now, we're just 4,66,000 odd doses away from that mark. And as you can see, that countdown now absolutely buzzing. It's changing moment to moment. We were told yesterday that there are about 700 vaccinations per second. Well, that pace seems to have dramatically increased as India approaches this massive milestone. Now, let's also just take you through what we've seen so far. There are, of course, concerns that remain. There is a big gap between those who have taken the first dose, that's and those who have taken both doses. Now, a sizable number has not received their second dose. That's the government's new big concern. Now, let's just show you that huge gap or disparity. 51% of India's adult population has taken one dose. Total population, pardon me, has taken one dose, but only 21% is fully covered. Now, only one other country has administered as many vaccine doses, or over 1 billion vaccine doses, and that's China. Let's take a look at the magnitude of this milestone in terms of other countries, though of course smaller than India. If you can get that graphic up, well, India, when it crosses 1 billion doses, will have vaccinated 18 times the population of Canada, 5 Russias, 10 United Kingdoms, 11 Frances, and 8 Germanys. But as we said, there are concerns and there's still a lot of challenges ahead. Now, as India gets set to cross the 1 billion doses mark at the current rate that it's going at, let's get up the what's left graphic on our screens. All right, we'll try and get that for you in just a moment. But let's go right across to our colleagues joining us to track this big moment. Meher Pandey is with us, as is Uma Sudhir. Meher, to you first. Lots of celebrations planned, even as concerns remain?
Yes, Ankita, there is a massive celebration planned. Today, we're just less than 5 lakh doses away from the milestone of 100 crore vaccinations. It will be a big achievement, especially considering where we were just a few months ago. Today, the health minister will launch a vaccination song and a music video at the Red Fort. There will be the largest India flag also will be flown today over there. Then the Prime Minister will be at a central government hospital, most likely Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital, where he will be there for the countdown and celebrate with the health workers who have helped bring us here. But of course, there are a lot of caveats to this milestone as well. The vast majority of the vaccinations that have happened are first doses. There is a big disparity in partially covered people and people who are fully covered. And this gap is amongst the largest in the world. The government itself has said that a sizable number of people who are eligible to take their first dose, whose deadline to take the second dose has already approached, have not actually come forward. So as we celebrate today, the government is going to have to reach out to people at the last mile, engage with them to make sure as many people in the country are as protected as possible. They take their second dose also.
Uma Sudhir joining us at this point. Uma, we've of course been talking about that massive disparity between, those who have taken the first dose and those who are fully vaccinated. And Telangana is one of the states where you actually have very definitive numbers, and it is a very worrying disparity.
Yes, indeed, Ankita. First, to give the big picture that yes, Telangana also part of that milestone day where we are talking about reaching the 100 crore mark, and Telangana is going to be lighting up its monuments, whether it's Golconda Fort, Charminar, as well as the Warangal Fort and Ramappa Temple, as part of the celebration for reaching the 1 billion mark. And Telangana is going to have its own milestone of reaching the 3 crore mark, where we have about 3.69 crore is the total eligible population. And here, in fact, I have people waiting for the dose. but the dosage here at this particular center has not yet begun because they say there has been a delay in receiving the vaccine, though there is no, per se, there is no shortage of vaccine. There are about 50 lakh doses available. But the important question about whether people are not taking the second dose on time. Telangana in many senses is reflecting the national picture. Like Meher was mentioning, if you have about 1 billion that we are going to hit, only 70% have taken a first dose and 30% have also taken a second dose. In Telangana, it is 75% on the first dose and 39% have taken the second dose. And what is worrying is that about 36 lakh people so far have not taken the second dose, and some of them have in fact got delayed, not because of non-availability of vaccine but other reasons. One of the reasons is that there is a sense of complacency that did come about, where people are thinking that now there is no COVID, but yesterday the health director pointed out that in places like Russia or even in UK, cases are increasing and we are also having deaths. And he also shared some interesting statistics saying that 60% of those people who have not been vaccinated, people who have been getting infected, 60% of them are those who are not getting have not got vaccinated with even one dose. That 30% of those getting infected are those who have been vaccinated with one dose, and there is only 5 to 10% people who have got both doses and also getting infected, what we call as a breakthrough infection. And he is pointing out that they are going to be launching special drives, like the Union Health Minister also spoke about, to reach out to those who have to in fact get a second dose of their vaccine. Even in Telangana, that has been a kind of a challenge, and that's one reason why they are in fact door to door going, because they now have the statistics with the Cowin kind of a statistics that you have, where people are there who are the ones who are missing out on their second dose, and people are now, the challenge is now to go and reach out to them. But just in Telangana, let me point out, there are still 69 lakh people who have not taken even a single dose of the vaccine, and that's the challenge for the government that they are now going to take ahead. You are all waiting for the vaccine. आप wait कर रहे हैं vaccine के लिए कि आपका delay हुआ, time आप time को थोड़ा save करके यहाँ पे आना चाहते हैं, लेकिन delay हो रहा है.
वो 10 बजे को बोल रहे हैं ना, पता नहीं कितना time लगेगा.
आपका second dose है first dose?
Second dose.
और delay हुआ second dose में कि आप सही वक्त पे आ गए?
सही वक्त पे आ गए.
सही वक्त पे. कोई है ऐसा जो डिले है? आपका पहला डोज कब हुआ था?
पहला डोज अभी.
यानी कि अब तक नहीं लिए?
नहीं लिया.
क्यों नहीं लिया था?
बोले फिर दूसरा जगह में गया तो पूछते बोल के उसलिए लेना पड़ रहा.
आप क्या काम करते हैं?
मैं हाउसकीपिंग.
अच्छा, लेकिन फर्स्ट डोज के लिए किसी ने आपको पुश नहीं किया कि आपको लेना चाहिए, और डर भी नहीं लगा जब पहला वेव या दूसरा वेव आया? तो
कुछ भी डर नहीं लगा. भगवान लेके आना कहते लेके आया, बस ऐसी सच्चा मैं.
That is an attitude that perhaps is a little frightening and worrying as well. But the government pointing out those statistics to say that it is those who have not taken both doses who are in fact reaching not just the hospitals or getting infected, and also those inside the ICU, those who are still inside the ICU after COVID positive infection. Most of them, in fact, I was told, are all people who have not taken either dose of the vaccine at all. Back to you, Ankita.
All right, Uma. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. And of course, we will come back to you at vaccination centers when India crosses that historic milestone. But let's take this across to our experts joining us this morning. Dr. Rahul Pandit, member of the National COVID Task Force, member of the Maharashtra COVID Task Force as well. Dr. Sarman Singh, director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Bhopal, is with us, as is Dr. Sunila Garg, member of the Lancet Commission and member of India's COVID Task Force, director and professor community medicine, Maulana Azad Medical College. Let me begin, in fact, with Dr. Sunila Garg. We can't take away from this, the importance of this moment, this milestone. In your opinion, who does the credit go to? Would it be, the medical community, the health workers, the frontline health workers who are doing an incredible job getting vaccines to far-reaching corners of the country at this moment as we see that ticker counting down at a rapid pace? Your thoughts, Dr. Garg?
Thank you, Ankita. It has been indeed a momentous occasion, which has not been a cakewalk for us. But I will say that, today when we are very soon going to achieve a billion mark, the credit goes overall to our I'll say effective leadership, number one. Number two has been our scientists, frontline workers, and I'll say the community participation also. Though there has been vaccine hesitancy, but sooner, I'll say that, gradually this has been addressed. Though it has got to be gradually more and more, has to be addressed till we, vaccinate about 90 crore more people. That is our target still. But we have to give credit to all, particularly our frontline workers who have, kind of, I'll say that they have crossed all the terrains, so much difficult terrains, addressing hesitancies, going across, it has been a really, really challenging task. And I'll say that, ultimately we have achieved, we are going to very soon achieve a billion mark. So it is indeed a momentous occasion. And I like to give credit to all our scientists, our manufacturers, and, even the most important credit goes to our effective leadership. This is where at every level, whether it is right from talking from the district level to the national level, I'll say the credit goes to all.
All right. Dr. Rahul Pandit, your thoughts as we approach this milestone. Did you expect to see this at this point? It's probably important to talk about the challenges ahead as well, and India perhaps is not going to achieve its vaccination target of 60% of the adult population by the end of December. But do you still think that there is enough here to be celebrated, or is there a big challenge going ahead?
Good morning, Ankita. I think it's a very important golden landmark that we will be crossing very shortly in the next few hours, hopefully. And I believe that as a country, we have done exceptionally well to vaccinate around 100 crore doses within a span of 10 months. It's not a short task. It was a very, very big task which had to be completed with a lot of hard work. And as Dr. Garg said, right from the top to the district level administration, everybody's worked hard. The healthcare workers and the people who are actually the frontliners have been putting a lot of effort in trying to not only just vaccinate people, but also clear the vaccine hesitancy, and people at large have accepted the vaccine. I think we have a lot more work to do still. We probably have another 90 crore doses for adults to be given, and then that would have another pediatric vaccination program which will have to be run parallelly as well. So we have still a lot of hard work to go. So while if I can call this a golden landmark, we still have a diamond and a platinum landmark to cross. Right. And those will be coming very shortly.
All right. You speak very confidently indeed of the challenges ahead and being able to meet those also. Dr. Sarman Singh, your thoughts at this point. Obviously there have been sort of, certain doubts sometimes raised about the vaccination process. There have been sort of questions raised sometimes over certificates being issued to non-beneficiaries. But at the end of the day, how do you think this vaccination process has fared from the time when there was a supply issue, there were questions over the pace at which vaccinations was happening, and now?
Yeah, thank you, Ankita ji. So this is my two colleagues very rightly said that this was a combined effort of the leadership, execution, and participation of each and everybody. This is also true that we have almost achieved the target, which probably we set on our own. But also, you very rightly said, then others also said that we have a big challenge ahead. 70 crore people still need to be vaccinated. And these people, sometimes they interpret some of the findings or some of the statements of the, some officials that one vaccine is good enough. But somehow these statements were given in good faith and good sense, but people thought it otherwise, and they are not coming forward for the second vaccine dose. So this is something I think complacency has emerged in many of the people because they thought that single vaccine is good enough to protect them. So we need to meet this challenge also, because we need to convince the people that yes, to prevent the third wave, which we are seeing third, fifth, even Iran is having fifth wave. Russia is having third wave. Thailand is having. Romania is very bad, very bad. They don't have even ICU beds like what we had in India. So the thing is that we need to be consistent in our effort. What we have achieved, we should not be complacent from our side also, as people, community has become that, we have achieved 100 million, the 1000 billion target. So now we are happy. We still have to go a long way and to vaccinate as many as possible with the second dose also.
Dr. Rahul Pandit, lots to talk about here in terms of the challenges. First up, do you think that, what is the likelihood of India actually meeting its vaccination target of 60% of the adult population by December? It's a huge asking rate, if we can use a cricket term at this point.
It certainly is a huge asking rate. I'm not taking that statement away at all. I think we'll have to work exceptionally hard. It looks a little bit difficult for us to complete it all by the end of this year. But I think if we can even, achieve what we have achieved between the first and the second dose, maybe cover the gap by half or so, I think that would still be a sizable population which we can cover. Anything more than that will be a bonus. And I think we need to be targeting to close that gap very quickly. Obviously, the pediatric vaccination program, whenever it starts, whenever the government gives the permission to roll it over, will have to run hand in hand with this. And we should probably be then looking at vaccinating both the groups as quickly as possible and try and shorten the gap of covering all the population by early next year or so.
Dr. Sunila Garg, 51% has actually received a single dose of the vaccine. Now, that's not very far off from that 60% full vaccination. On the other hand, the full vaccination target is falling way short right now. Why do you think there have been so many vaccine dropouts? Is it complacency among individuals who feel COVID has gone and they don't need to worry about it anymore? Or is this something that has to be, dealt with at a policy level, with information, with a campaign to get people back into vaccine centers to take their second doses?
Yeah, Ankita, you are absolutely right that there has been a huge gap, and it has been exceptionally high, which we have tried to address since last 2 weeks, I'll say that. But this huge gap could be because of, one reason is vaccine hesitancy, but because of the longer gap also. We say that about 12 weeks, can be the gap between first and second dose, especially when we talk of Covishield vaccine. So people become more and more complacent. I think that is one of the another issues also. And the third part is that, as you rightly said, that the number of cases are going down, so people are not taking it very seriously. The fourth point which I like to bring to our attention is also a gender gap, which we do have a gap of almost about 3.5 crores between males and females also. So that also needs to be addressed. So we need to go district by district and look at the gaps, and we need to address at the micro level basically that, and we have to rather, see that the second dose is addressed as early as possible.
Let me take this across to Dr. Singh. Dr. Singh, what about booster doses? Until we have met our vaccination targets, can India even begin to think about booster doses, at least for its frontline, workers who are actually vaccinating other people or in the first line of defense, as it were?
Ankita, this question repeatedly being asked from all of us, those who are in the field, but I personally feel that we are not yet ready. Rather, we should not be thinking of the booster dose as yet, because 70 crore people are still to be vaccinated with the second dose. This, the WHO DG has been saying for the last almost 6 months or so that equitable distribution has to be there. America is having a huge stock of the vaccines, therefore probably they can afford to. But DG of the WHO always said that there are several countries, and within some countries, some populations, they have not even got the single dose. And therefore, it is better that at least whole world is vaccinated first with the single dose, then second dose, and then probably we should think of the booster dose. Very rightly, Dr. Sunila Garg mentioned that, I think the gap, this is the time now that government of India should also think that the gap in the Covishield, which was 12 weeks, increased in fact from 4 to 6 weeks to 12 weeks, that can be reduced now. That is the off time right now.
All right, Dr. Rahul Pandit, quick last thoughts on what you see as the road ahead.
I think the road ahead will actually need us to put in more efforts than what we are putting right now. As Dr. Garg said, we will have to now go down to each person's house or maybe the locality, and set up information centers there, maybe vaccination centers there, so that people can come in and take their second dose, and hand in hand continue with the rest of the vaccination program which is going on.
All right. Thanks very much indeed, all of you, for joining us as we count down to that historic moment. As you can see now, less than 2.5 lakh doses away from 100 crores or 1 billion doses. And that ticker is literally flying as we count down to that milestone. We'll take a quick break. Back in a moment. The other story breaking right now, Shah Rukh Khan is now at Mumbai's Arthur Road jail to meet his son Aryan Khan, who's been in custody for 14 days now. The superstar's visit coming just a day after a special court turned down his son's bail application. Saurabh joining us at this point with the latest on that. Saurabh, what are we hearing?
Well, family members are allowed to meet those who are in prison, and based on that, I think Shah Rukh Khan will get half an hour's time with his son, Aryan Khan. This will be according to jail protocols and jail rules. So, obviously, this will be the first time I think they will be meeting post Aryan Khan's arrest. Earlier, they had a video call, but now, of course, he will be meeting in person, and this is, of course, part of somebody who is in prison, their rights, and also family members are allowed to meet. But this will take place under all rules that are followed in jail. Currently, Shah Rukh Khan is inside the Arthur Road jail. We're being given to understand that the thing is already underway between Aryan and Khan. Of course, it will be the first time they're meeting in person post the arrest of Aryan Khan. After that raid on the cruise ship by the anti-drugs agency, the Narcotics Control Bureau, and obviously this he's expected to come out after half an hour after meeting his son in jail.
Our colleague Sunil Singh reporting, Saurabh, that some relaxation of COVID protocols at the Arthur Road jail is what has facilitated this meeting.
Yes, with COVID cases down, several relaxations have been announced in the public sphere, and that extends to jails as well. And those relaxations have been allowed, which is why.
Right.
But earlier there were a lot of restrictions on visitors in prison because of the COVID situation.
Right.
But those restrictions are also being slowly lifted as Mumbai city returns to normal. As you know, the vaccination pace has picked up. Obviously, turning to normalcy, and some, rights, freedoms that had been curtailed during COVID are also now being restored, and and that extends to jails as well.
Now, Saurabh, the fact that it's taken 14 days for this meeting to happen, the superstar finally being able to meet his son face to face, but it also comes after Aryan Khan's bail plea has been rejected by the special court, which in its bail order has said that his chats appear to reveal that he regularly indulged in illegal drug activities, quote unquote, and that it cannot be said that he is not likely to commit a similar offence while he is on bail. So this would sort of then seem to indicate that Aryan Khan's custody could go on for some time.
Yes, of course. This is, of course, completely on the basis of WhatsApp chats, and the court seems to have arrived at a decision on the basis of WhatsApp chats, and the High Court will deliberate on it. Now, this morning, Aryan Khan's lawyers are expected to mention their bail petition before the High Court. Mentioning is, of course, when you bring it up before a judge urgently, and expect some urgent listing. But obviously, it'll be up to the court to decide how to take this forward. And, in High Court, it'll be the same process. The bail petition will be filed and a reply will be filed, and there will be arguments. And then, of course, the court will decide based on the arguments the lawyers make on whether the lower court has erred in its judgment or whether the judgment is valid. And that is, of course, up to the Bombay High Court. Now, there is, of course, one observation that legal experts do make often, and it's worth repeating at this stage, is that while High Courts and the Supreme Court have often stressed on individual freedoms, fundamental rights, and bail, not jail, being the principle in criminal jurisprudence, in lower courts, often judges are more circumspect, judges are more cautious, and sometimes even tend to err on the side of caution when it comes to deciding on these cases. So obviously, these are matters that will be deliberated by the High Court. The High Court, of course, and the Supreme Court are the final, vestiges of justice in this country. So obviously, we will go there. But at this point, the important thing is that yes, post the denial of bail in the Sessions Court, this is of course heard on the merits of the argument. Of course, the family members decided to meet in person because earlier they were meeting through video conferencing. Shah Rukh Khan and Gauri Khan had spoken to their sons through video conferencing earlier in prison, but this is of course the first physical meeting, and this comes after COVID relaxations were announced across, several COVID relaxations were announced across the state.
Right. So, Saurabh, explain to us again what jail protocols are. How long can this meeting take place for? What more do we know about what's likely to happen?
Well, if I'm right, I think the meeting lasts for half an hour. I think prisoners are allowed to meet family members for half an hour. So that is, of course, how long it is going to last. So obviously, if he's gone in, then of course the meeting starts. They will get half an hour's time. I'll also have to check in what situation the meeting will take place, whether they will be talking to each other, through one of those meeting rooms in jail where one person sits on one side and the visitor sits on the other side. But again, all of this is subjective, and the rules are all there, and what jail authorities say that everything will be done in accordance with the rules, and no special treatment will be accorded to anyone on account of being a celebrity.
All right, Saurabh, thanks very much indeed for reporting on that breaking story. We'll take a quick break. Much more coming up. The big breaking story right now, superstar Shah Rukh Khan was at Mumbai's Arthur Road jail till just minutes ago to meet his son Aryan Khan, the 23-year-old, being rejected bail by a special anti-drugs court just yesterday. Well, there you see those visuals of Shah Rukh Khan, in fact, exiting from Mumbai's Arthur Road jail just minutes earlier. He drove away just minutes ago. It seems half an hour is the maximum time that family members are allowed to meet their relatives in jail. Saurabh Gupta continues to be with us. Saurabh, what more do we know at this point?
Well, we've been given to understand that he met for about 10-15 minutes with his son, and of course this meeting took place under the jail protocols in place, and protocols that are followed when family members are allowed to meet prisoners. Aryan Khan is, of course, being kept in Arthur Road jail in Mumbai, which is the primary jail usually for under trials. And of course, this is where he arrived this morning and went in, and of course then came out after about 20 minutes of the meeting, or 20 minutes time. So we are given to understand that he met Aryan Khan for about 10-15 minutes in the Arthur Road jail under jail protocols, and has just left the jail after meeting him. So he would be, of course, heading back to Mannat, his residence, from there now.
Are we getting any details about what transpired inside, Saurabh? As you're pointing out, it was a very brief meeting, just 15 or 20 minutes that he spent inside. And interesting to see those visuals, even as the superstar comes out, he's greeting fans, other people who are waiting perhaps to meet their family members in prison. And you can see him with folded hands, greeting them all as he gets into his car. Saurabh?
Yes, of course, there has, of course, been a video call between Aryan Khan and Shah Rukh Khan, but this is, of course, the first in-person meeting, and this has happened for the first time since Aryan Khan's arrest on the 3rd of October. And he's been in the Arthur Road jail since the 8th of October, and of course they've had a video call. He's had a video call with the family, but this is, of course, the first time that he has met Aryan Khan in person, Shah Rukh Khan. And you can see, of course, like I said in those visuals, Shah Rukh Khan leaving the prison, Arthur Road prison, after meeting his, his son in prison.
Right, Saurabh, as we were discussing earlier, this meeting also coming right after the Special Drugs Court said that on the basis of Aryan Khan's WhatsApp chats, it appeared that, there was an involvement in illegal drug activities and that there was a nexus with drug suppliers and peddlers. And Aryan's lawyers have now moved the Bombay High Court as well. What sort of time frame are we looking at before his bail hearing comes up in the Bombay High Court?
Well, today, of course, his lawyers will mention the bail petition in the Bombay High Court. That will happen today. And, post that, of course, we will know when the High Court lists it. The High Court registry will, of course, have to list the case for hearing before a judge, and the mentioning will also take place before a judge. So if the judge, if the Bombay High Court agrees to hear the bail plea urgently, then of course it will be heard on an urgent basis, or it will be listed as soon as possible, and then of course there will be a hearing. The NDTV, the Narcotics Control Bureau, will be given an opportunity to reply to the claim, to the petition, and then of course there will be arguments on both sides, following which there of course will be a verdict from the High Court. Now at this point the High Court will have to deliberate on whether the Sessions Court, the Special Anti-Drug Court, has been able to study the case correctly, and whether it has arrived at the right decision or not. So that is of course something that one can expect to happen in the Bombay High Court, because of course the Bombay High Court in this case is the appellate court, and then of course the final appellate court in the country is of course the Supreme Court. Now yes, the NDTV court and drug court of course did rely heavily on WhatsApp chats.
Right. All right, Saurabh, I'm going to have to interrupt you there for a moment, because we are now going back to the big story we've been talking about all morning. And that, of course, is India's countdown to that historic moment of 1 billion vaccine doses. 100 crore vaccines. We're now just 16,000 away from that mark, and just look at how fast that countdown ticker is, well, literally counting down. Now, in the last couple of hours, actually, we've seen 6 or 7 lakh doses being administered. So it really is going to be any moment now that India keeps its date with a historic milestone, 1 billion doses. Who would have thought, when this nationwide vaccination drive began 9 months ago, when it was surrounded by all sorts of questions about the pace of vaccinations, the slow pace, about whether, supply could in fact be ensured regularly, that we were going to see this day. However, even as those celebrations are planned, and they're going to begin any moment, as you can see, just 9,000 vaccine doses to go and counting down further, 8,700 odd now. I can't keep up with that countdown, as it's literally racing down to 1 billion doses. Just 7,000 left, 6,900 now. Now, remember, this is a countdown that updates in real time. On an average, there are about 700 vaccinations per second, but obviously there's been a huge drive to get people to go to vaccination centers today in order to make this milestone happen. Just 3,600 odd now. And it's going to happen any moment now as we speak. India just inches away from that massive milestone. All sorts of celebrations are planned today. There's going to be a massive Indian flag being hoisted today. There were celebrations planned at the Red Fort in the national capital. A special song to commemorate this event is being launched. There we have it. That's the moment. India at 1 billion vaccine doses. It has counted down to that historic milestone on the Cowin app, which also mentions the name of the Prime Minister. Remember, the Prime Minister's face also on all vaccination certificates. Now, together, India will defeat COVID-19. That's the motto that's there on your vaccination certificate. It's on the Cowin register also. Naresh Trehan joining us at this point. Dr. Trehan, your thoughts as India celebrates this historic moment?
It truly is a historic moment, no question about that. And it's a great accomplishment. Compliments to our Prime Minister Modi ji about staying with it and pushing it. So this is a combined accomplishment. One, the government. The other, the private sector that participated in also enhancing the ability to vaccinate. And the third very important thing is that the Indian biotechnology companies did a very good job. So they have not only manufactured the AstraZeneca one in India, but the like companies like Bharat Biotech, Zydus and all that have actually made new vaccines in India, which are actually an accomplishment in such a short time. It is actually very significant moment for India and the future of India, because it has demonstrated that it can do it. It's no mean accomplishment that 1 billion doses have already been administered. We are well on the way to administering the rest of the doses to the rest of the country. Hopefully by the end of December, early January, we will be able to...
Right. The Prime Minister currently at Delhi's Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital. Those are the visuals that we are seeing on our screens right now as India reaches this historic milestone of 1 billion doses. The Prime Minister waving to people as he takes a first-hand survey, as it were, of a vaccination center inside the Ram Manohar Lohia Hospital in New Delhi. Dr. Trehan, you were talking about the fact that, there's a lot to compliment the pharmaceutical companies who've been behind this, who've been supplying vaccine doses. Having said that, and not taking anything away from, the celebratory nature of this moment, we still have vaccines that haven't actually gotten emergency use authorization from the WHO, including Covaxin, which many Indians have taken. There are larger ramifications of this. They can't travel abroad without sort of checks and quarantines still. Your thoughts on that?
So there are three parts to this. One is the fact that we have found that people who have taken Covaxin have got the protection. So it's not that they have been in any way shortchanged, because we see equal number of people, that very small fraction that gets reinfection, that they are equal in both AstraZeneca and Covaxin, and the symptoms are very mild. So it means that it is effective, no question about that. The second is, yes, the inconvenience of travel. Yes, it is today. But the third thing is that looks like the WHO is working now at the last stage to actually validate it. So hopefully in the next week or two, we will get validation for Covaxin also. So I think that from that point of view, we are okay. Now the bigger part that worries us is still the children. Now, while we celebrate, we have to keep an eye on the fact that the children are still unvaccinated, they are still exposed, and we need to try to get them vaccines as fast as possible. So there is one candidate which Bharat Biotech has actually applied for, which has been given approval by the expert committee, and hopefully DCGI will find the data valid and then give the approval. So that would be a big relief, right? Because close to 30 crore are children who are not eligible for vaccination today.
Right.
So with this 1 billion, 100 crore mark crossed, the number of adults who need the second dose. So should be able to do, because if we can do 1 crore a day.
But having said that, Dr. Trehan, pardon me for interrupting, Dr. Trehan, but having said that, that is an area of concern, that we have 51% who've taken the first dose, but only 20% who are fully vaccinated. There are adults in this country who have not gone back for their second dose. How do we address that?
No, that is really a major gap right now, this vaccine hesitancy. And I would like to point out that Russia showed the maximum vaccine hesitancy in their population. Today, they are going through the worst wave, and most of them people who have got affected and are in the hospital are people who were unvaccinated. So it is a very clear thing to the public to know that vaccines we have seen, rare side effects. That was of any consequence. So the benefits of protection from vaccine far outweigh that of any doubts about taking the vaccine. So I think that we need to put this data out to everybody.
Right.
Let the people understand that yes, there is a real protection for it. It's not like that we are pushing something which has its hidden dangers. It's not so. So it's proven again and again, people who got the vaccine and who even got reinfected had very mild symptoms. We have not had any deaths in them, which is a big thing.
Yes. Dr. Trehan, do stay on with us. We also have Dr. Anish T.S., member of the expert panel for COVID-19 in Kerala, joining us at this point. But I'm also going to go across to my colleague Uma Sudhir, who's at a vaccination center right now. Uma, tell us what's happening.
Ankita, at least 50 people waiting here in the queue, but the vaccination center per se has not opened. Many of them waiting for the second dose, but I've also found quite a few people who have in fact not even taken one dose of the vaccine. In Telangana, in fact, we have statistics which is very similar to the center, to the national picture, where we are talking about 70% of the population, 75% of the population who have taken one dose of the vaccine, and only about 30% about 39 in Telangana, about 32 perhaps nationally, have taken a second dose, and at least 36 lakh people have not taken a second dose for various reasons. And as Dr. Trehan was pointing out, the health director here in fact has put out statistics to say that those people who are reaching the ICU or where the deaths are reported are in fact people who are not vaccinated at all, and those people who are getting infected, of them 60% of them who are getting infected are people who are in fact not taken any vaccine at all. 30% are those who have just taken one dose of the vaccine, and only 5 to 10% are those who have taken both doses of the vaccine and are getting infected. That's a breakthrough infection, but they do not reach the ICU, or the cases do not become serious. This is a medical team which has in fact coming down. They are going to be unloading their syringes and the vaccine stocks that they have got. Yes. What the Telangana government has told us is that they do have the vaccine stocks. That's not a problem. But reaching out to those people who are left out, like in this case, I want to show you an elderly gentleman here who we are told there was a kind of a reluctance because of which they had not got him vaccinated, and now they are going to, in fact, he was waiting for quite a long time.
I also have to reflect on perhaps the true heroes of this moment, frontline health workers, now bringing vaccines into that vaccination center. They've really been at the forefront of this massive drive to vaccinate India, and it really is a moment to mark their contribution also, even as we celebrate this massive moment. Uma, I am going to have to take a break at this point, but we'll be back with you in just a moment. So do stay with us. We'll be back right after this quick break.